We are the Iron Disciples. In this podcast, we talk about bodybuilding, dating, finances, exploring these topics from a biblical standpoint. How to do these things as Christian men.
Right on.
Hello.
Welcome to podcast number 6.
Right on. I'm John.
I'm Joe Creation.
And I'm Mike Mulvaney.
Nice to have you guys. We're going to start on with a prayer. Anybody want to take this one today?
Thank you, Jesus, for this beautiful day, another day on this beautiful world that you created, Lord. Thank you for each other and this opportunity to talk about some things that we don't really understand, but we're excited to talk about anyways. Mm-hmm. Thank you for salvation. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your love. In Christ's name, amen.
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 Thank you, Joey.
Well,
all right.
Today I think we're bridging this topic of kind of the dating market combined with what's known on the internet as the red pill.
Mm-hmm.
And
the red pill. Matrix,
yeah.
right? Blue pill, red pill.
Exactly.
Right. Do you want reality or do you want to live in the delusion?
Yeah, so
do you want your steak
or
do you want
blue pill is the delusion, right?
That's
right.
It's
the
in the Matrix.
In this context, it's
yeah.
the Disney fairy tale on how relationships work, I would say.
Right, which
that's
is
kind of what the blue pill.
Opening doors for women. You're going to have this
chivalry.
This queen that's like a beautiful lady, and you're going to treat her right, and she's going to treat you right by doing the chivalry. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Is that dead? Is it dead?
Is it dead? That's the question.
Depends on where you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Middle East.
Oh, I mean, some of these, like, I don't know, smaller towns, I feel like if they're not overwhelmed by meth and heroin and everybody's dead, usually
those are good signs.
I can't tell you how many
I
small
came from
towns.
That area.
Yeah, we went, and when we in California, you get in the mountains, you'd expect to see these beautiful little, villages of people washing their clothes for each other and loving it. No.
It gets dark in those armpits.
Cars in the ditches. Or what happened there? Oh, lots of drugs. But I do agree. Depends on where you go. Statistics, like Mike was talking about earlier. Will these things help to indicate the dynamics we're in?
Statistics are great. We got some crazy statistics, which I think is a big part of why the red pill is doing what it's doing. But we almost had a podcast with some Christian girls this Saturday, which didn't end up happening.
Last Saturday.
Yeah,
it will be happening this Saturday.
Yeah, okay.
So this is like a good pre-conversation to that.
I think so, because we'll be able to get together and talk. So they had a flat tire. Didn't happen. Mike and I tried to get another thing together with two Christian younger single guys, and that didn't happen either.
The Lord's like,
it's one of those great days.
Happening today.
You were getting close, dude. I was in the shower talking to Mike. I was like, "Oh, we're gonna get this." Now, nope, not gonna happen. It was just like barely. It was. I just had to laugh.
Those are the moments where you do laff. Right. At least you guys did your best. You tried your hardest.
Right. Yeah. Next weekend, and this will get us primed. But so I separated from basically my wife in September, and Mike has been single for. You've dated a lot of girls.
Well, I would say a lot.
You have a lot of girls that you're friends with. Blows my mind. Like,
I am selective and very selective at dating.
Right.
So, I mean, frankly, I just view dating as it's an interview for marriage, and I don't want to waste either one's time.
Wise, yeah.
And so, yeah.
It's also very kind, because you're not just wanting to get something to so many men are like, dating, they're worried about, getting lucky.
Well, what's your prerogative?
Right.
Do you want to get the D wet, or do you want to learn about dating? That's kind of where I'm at. I just want to learn how to act or be myself in front of the opposite sex.
Yeah, we got three big different dynamics between all three of us.
Yes.
John's married. Joe's hasn't even dealt with the current dating market
since I was 18, and before that I didn't really even date it at all. So
and then I've just dealt with it so much that I got a bunch of built-up animosity.
It's a little jaded. Mike's a little jaded, but he's about to go black pill.
No, he ain't. He's holding on to that. He's holding on to his God pill, man. Right?
That's the world, baby.
Yeah, but
no.
So
it's easy to get like that though, and I think that's why the red pill is like so.
It is. No, you're
so predominant.
Right about that.
It's because a lot of guys are like.
Well, let's back up a second. So we're already throwing around terms here. Red pill.
Rollo Tomassi, rock star, metalhead from the '80s. Dude wrote some books called The Rationale Male, right?
Yep, it's a series of like 4 of them now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The first book, it's a large sum of data about kind of the inner dynamics between men and women and how we operate on average. obviously there's always exceptions.
Very data based.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It's refreshing to have some books like that.
Yeah.
Like, on the issue, on the topic.
Not
Yeah,
the
and
chicken
it's-
soup for the soul. It's just like, here's
it's
the
a
hard
reality
fact.
check for, as you call it, blue pilled people. It kind of pulls the curtain away, and it's like, life's not a fairy tale. And it's yeah,
Because guys
it's-
aren't getting results with the blue pill mentality, right? With the Disney kind of Prince
yeah.
Charming.
Well, either are the women, frankly.
Right.
And so it's just a good look at data on that stuff. I mean, some of it's opinion, obviously, but it's definitely data, and you kind of got to decide what to do with it. Now, a lot of men take it down the wrong path, I would say, and just kind of be like, well, Western women today, they're not worth wifing up, so
Like
we're just gonna
dating
go.
nihilists.
Yeah, they're
Go
just
plow the
like
fields.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna go play the fields and kind of be degenerates. So that's one path a lot of men are unfortunately
Just happy
taking.
they're not married doing that.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
because they
some
don't
of
want
them
to
are.
invest.
Even
They don't
worse.
want to invest in like a real relationship. They got guys that are friends they can go hang out with and be like, I can hang out with dudes and have a great time. They understand me. They respect my intellect. We can get on with the conversations, and that's the sex part is what's not happening for me. So I can just roll through
You could stay alive,
and
stay afloat,
plow
as a
fields,
human
and
being.
then just not be committed and
Right.
not have like a really
And keep
solid
in mind, guys,
relationship.
this is a secular breakdown of a secular movement.
Yes,
So
I'm
when we
not
talk
talking
on these things, we're very much trying to be sensitive to what's going on out there. So, and it's going on in the church too, and I think that we're also acknowledging that because this is by no means just an indication of what we're seeing people do now. This is a means of the heartbeat of the United States and abroad, probably in some ways too. So, red pill, blue pill comes from the Matrix. The red pill is acknowledging that the reality we stand in isn't like a fairy tale.
Isn't
right?
being Prince
It's not-
Charming. It's not going out and being chivalrous to get the results anymore. It's based on the kind of hypergamy, essentially.
You want to
that,
define that term too, because that's a good one.
Mike, hypergamy.
So it's basically in the dating context, dating up or at least equal to.
Okay.
And the kind of, I would say, biological imperative of women is usually to date up.
So they're like
Whether
in the
that's
hype-
whether that's like income, whether that's like he
social.
looks better
it's
than
kind of like social economic status.
So they're-
Right,
they're
social
marrying
economic.
up into
a hotter, more
somebody
well-
who's got something to offer
Mhm.
them
yeah,
Right.
whether
Yeah.
that's income or looks or whatever.
or
And
social
that-
status. Right.
And so that has kind of changed the whole marketplace since women are now starting to out earn men. And a lot of them will, I've talked to many of them on this topic, they don't want to date beneath them. They will, but you can tell it's not
So
what they want.
They're fishing in a puddle.
So yeah,
That's for the
so-
long term though, because they are totally fine finding that good D on the weekends, but they're
Yeah,
not going to
well,
commit to that guy.
Exactly.
You know, he's
There's
just-
two like
He's a tool.
yeah, they'll talk about the two concepts of like kind of the short-term hypergamy versus the long-term hypergamy. And it kind of used to be
Right.
most of human history
Right.
that the long-term was the main attractor. Because like we're not, and I would to clarify, like the hypergamy concept's not, it's amoral basically. It's not good or bad. If I was a woman, like that's the
It's a kind of a fundamental.
yeah, it's like,
And like you
the
say,
women
if-
are the child bearers. They need to find somebody financially stable,
Mhm.
provide a protector, and that's just kind of like hardwired into them.
That's a utilitarian.
Which is your long game, which
yeah.
means that they're gonna want. That's the long.
And
yeah.
that's what most of human history was. But
Right.
now, as they are their own providers, it has changed the game a bit. Well, a lot on it seems like what they're
So
selecting.
they don't
and
need
what
a
I-
man to support them.
Yeah.
They can do it themselves. They don't need to have the financial security of a good of a
Mhm.
dude. You know, they can have a kid. They can take care of them themselves.
Mhm.
We were looking at the data on single moms, single dads. It's not like you have to have financially two people to support a child or two.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Anymore.
what we're doing is we're describing the conditions that are making the red pill a little harder to swallow for men. And so we're acknowledging that now the dynamics in between the dating scene have changed, maybe from maybe the 60s or the 50s. And now-
1964 contraceptives came into, and this
That
is Rollo
changed the
Tomassi.
game.
And that's
Okay.
what he says was the defining factor within the red pill movement, because then women could take control over their basically whether they can have babies or not.
Yeah.
Right? That's
the
contraceptive.
sexual revolution.
Yes.
And then you
feminism on the
combine
rise.
that with a bunch of other things that happened then, like abortion, I think being legalized was probably somewhere around then.
Mhm.
I'll have to check
and
that for you.
yeah, just the feminist sexual revolution movement as
Mhm.
well. Like all these things changed the mindset of what females are selecting on. And obviously this is on average. We're not calling out like specifically Christian women on this. It's just kind of a holistic view on how things have changed.
Yeah,
Right.
we're using statistics and these sort of, we looked at the timeline. We're like, okay, contraceptives, boom, and then we look at what happens next.
What's
So, like,
interesting?
girls didn't need to have. They could earn as much as a man. Okay, and they also could have babies when they wanted to.
Mhm.
It was their choice, right?
The interesting thing
A
on
lot
the
more control over their uterus.
Control over the uterus. Yeah.
multiple, like I think Jordan Peterson was one that said it, Brett Weinstein. Like there's been a lot of people saying that moment in history, the birth control pill invention, will be a bigger change for human history than like the invention of the atomic bomb.
Yes.
Well, the
That's what
implications
Rollo
of it,
said, I remember
It just
Yeah.
changes the entire dynamic of everything.
I
Yep,
wouldn't doubt
more
it.
influential. It's not. It's like because the major dominance hierarchy, like JP talks about this, the dominance hierarchy is based on women choosing the male mate,
Mm-hmm.
and they're at the top.
Yeah.
So that's always the way it's been. But now it's like even more overblown. You know,
I feel
or
like-
they have even more power and control.
I also have heard that there's a bit of an issue with what they think we find attractive.
Yeah.
And so they're playing the reflection game where they look in the
Exactly.
mirror and they're like, well, I think this, so they must think this too. And that I've heard of commonly, because most men aren't like, I want my wife to be a doctor or a
Right.
scientist or some highly achieving academic superstar. We don't find that attractive, yet in their minds, at least I've heard this, spoken by Rollo Tomassi, some of these other guys in the red pill game, they're saying they're frustrated after they get this, awesome career, and then they're even more frustrated because the men who they're thinking they're going to reel in, they really don't find that as attractive, or if attractive at all.
Yeah.
Why
so
is that? Are they like man children?
That's
Well,
something that I think we could all comment on, the three of
yeah.
us. Why is that? I think
It's-
that most men, do you want to
Yeah.
start?
So
Go ahead.
there's multiple reasons. Number one, I would say, a lot of the traits that are required to get like high up into a career field, especially in like the corporate world, are very masculine.
Oh,
traits.
yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
like type A personality type stuff, masculine.
What they call them, the bad bitches.
Yeah,
right?
they boss babes or whatever. Like
Mhm.
these.
Ooh, buddy, I don't want no part of that. Me
son.
neither. I'm like,
Yeah, like that.
ugh. Scared.
It's not
So
attractive
they,
to
they
men.
pretty much have a pair down there.
Yeah, it's not.
Not
and
into that,
It's
man.
not attractive to men.
Kinda gross.
And for most men anyway. Obviously, not all. So that's one of the elements is just the personality traits required to achieve some of those high level careers are often unattractive.
And a lot
And
of them
then-
are single, like 40-year-old,
Yeah.
late 30 women.
Yeah,
that
they've
are,
already
like,
come to
hyped on
terms with not
Adderall.
having kids too. They've already
drugged
come
out.
to terms with identifying their character as a woman in
They
in
haven't come to
different
terms.
places.
No, they haven't. They still want it.
Well, I mean, they've had to if they're 40. I mean, there's a lot that they've already.
That doesn't stop them
they've
from
already
being delusional.
well, we're not talking about delusions. People can change their mind a minute before death, but that's what their actions say.
And the other, I would say, element is with the hypergamy concept. Most of them will not want to date down. They'll want to date someone equal. And then if you're like, let's say you're 35 years old, you got this badass career, making 6 figures. So you want to date guys in that same realm, probably like 40 years old, making 6 figures. Well, that guy doesn't care what the woman he's going to date is making. So he's probably going to go date
He's off the table for her.
He's probably going to go date a 26-year-old that doesn't have a type A personality and
And that in addition to the
brings
fact
more.
she's 40 years old. So, I mean,
Or
that
even if
guy's
she's
probably
like
taking care of himself
She'd
with a
be 30
long-term
plus,
mate
but
10
yeah.
years
Yeah.
before.
30 plus generally is when they have that like come to Jesus moment where they're like done being partying and doing that kind of stuff. And
I was just
might
doing
wanna
the
start a
math.
family.
I was doing the math
That's like
on,
long-
on,
that's
on
the
like
long game,
like
you
a
know?
career. So like when they're 30, they're probably just getting established. Maybe 35, they got a decent thing going. Maybe 40, they're like on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
If they had like higher education, that was like say a doctor or something like that, which took them more than a few years to accomplish.
Yeah, 30.
Yeah.
You're just starting your
Right. They're just
residency
getting
or
out there,
something.
right.
Yeah.
Well, they've been so like the one phrase is so many of these women have turned themselves into the man they want to marry, and that's like
the reflection problem. Yeah,
And it's like the attraction is not symmetrical. Like what the traits that men are attracted to in women are not the same as what women are attracted to in men, and that's a huge misconception. It seems anyway that a lot of people don't understand.
But what are
Yeah.
people attracted to beyond the sexes? power. Power seems to be a universal attractive thing, but it doesn't quite pan out.
I don't think for men to women. I think most men want.
Well, men are attracted to power itself.
Yeah.
They're attracted
Not
to
to say-
vaginas, dude.
Yeah,
that's
we
the
don't
power
want-
that I think he's talking about. It's like, that's
that
ultimate
holds
power.
power. I'm talking power in a form that speaks to how provocative it is in the masses, how much influence you have, that kind of stuff. Like power of the woman, right? Because she can. How many times have we seen stories where a woman can influence a man? I mean, Samson, we got in the Bible. Joseph was a great example of a man who overcame a woman.
Mhm.
Potiphar's wife. Thank you. And then even
David.
Rachel, like
David,
David,
yeah,
Bathsheba. So there's a lot of power that women
Adam and
wield.
Eve.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
The fruit.
this is great
Come
because I
on.
mean there is no curtain.
It's been
here.
red pill
It's
since
there.
the very beginning.
But what I guess I'm saying is power is attractive. So when you see a human being is acknowledging that, okay, like when I look at this beginning of women's rights and stuff, like the only way we're going to be able to get our right to vote or our right to do these things that men do is if we get educated, and we can start to fight in the ring and joust in them as equals. And they did that. And from that point on, they were able to establish for themselves a greater, rights, greater freedom. So I can see how that is attractive for them because they're looking out for themselves, whereas men probably didn't see that as a need the way a woman would because they're men.
Yeah.
So this
They
is
already had that.
interesting. So we got this kind of like this crossfade of men becoming more women becoming more like men, and then men also becoming more like women, and within they have sexual needs. And you were talking about this early on, is like, so if a woman can support herself and do what the man needs to do without having to be, tied down with that, and she can have kids if she wants to, when she wants to.
Mhm.
And then a guy is also sitting there going, do I really need to put up with a woman if all I
Mhm.
want to do is have maybe some kids, or I can have kids some other time, or I just want to have sex. And
So he's evaluating the woman as an offering. He doesn't have to take it all. He could take one piece and
he can take what he wants. And
Right.
with the porno, we're in the
Sounded
80s,
so
baby.
old.
You got some porno.
Oh my
Pornos.
God.
It's like guys don't really need to go into the. You were talking about this. They don't. Some guys don't feel like they need to date.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can just.
There's a movement called, I think it's like
MGTOW.
MGTOW. So yeah, it stands for men going their own way. And it's like men
Very
are just
sad state of
You
affairs.
can go
men are
away,
Fleetwood Mac.
alone in the corner, man. Ciao.
That guy got screwed over too. That's the irony is ripe there. Sorry.
Yeah, Fleetwood.
Okay.
But I mean, it's
Like, I
a
definitely will.
Yeah.
It
it's-
makes sense though. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously think it's a sad way to live, but a lot of men apparently are going that route. And
Is it a sad way to live if there's not like a quality female you can interact with, like, and sex is just been reduced to like a physical action, and men being
No,
very
you
visually
nailed it.
oriented.
Yeah.
We just need to see some stuff, and we're pretty much
pretty
good
much
to
good
go.
to go?
It's kind of
not to say that good sex is much way more than that. That's what God made it to be. But for a lot of guys, that's pretty much where it's at, because they have good friends. They can get the social interaction they need from other males instead of a woman. Instead of like, I need to have my cake and eat
I
it.
think it's
I need to
just
have a cool chick that I can bang and it'll be cool. How
Yeah.
hard is that to find?
that never lasts. Because when you have a cool chick that you bang, I don't care how much self control you have.
I mean,
You're
that is
gonna
like
end up, it's gonna end up getting messy. in the
long
form
term
of
game,
love.
like someone that you're best friends with and that you find attractive. That's what I mean. when I
that's
say
a
that.
wife. Yeah,
That's a wife.
It's a wife.
It's a long term
Yeah.
game.
I see sex sometimes.
And this long term game and all this stuff, these are not my terminology. This is the
I
red pill
thought
stuff.
about
This
something.
is a lot
Something struck me, and this is kind of gonna, and I'll just leave this as a footnote. You guys can comment on it or not, but the attractiveness to have a wife, I feel, comes a great portion of that comes from having a family that was that made that look like a good idea.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, because if you come from a family where your mom and dad aren't together, or they're always fighting, or it's okay for families to fight, and I'm gonna just lay that out. I came from a family where there was quite a bit of that, but at least there was honesty in the background. People were trying to connect. But if there's like a single mom who dates constantly, who never finds the right guy, or all these different examples of family that when you're growing up, it's just like, I don't want any of that, and I don't think it really develops this doom pill mentality. And I look at the world and I feel like the family is definitely the target. You know, that's where people want to, that's the best target you have to destroy. And when you grow up in those situations,
The family has needs. So like if you're in a family, there has to be purpose behind it.
there's so much you learn from a family too. It's like you could learn how to be a good husband from a family. Like,
But you need to have a reason to have a husband. You need to have a reason to have a wife that stays home and like cooks
and if
meals.
you don't see a
and
good representation
that's
of
like
that,
the
how are you
equally
going to
yoked,
see the
unequally
need?
yoked. It's like they can't be doing the same things. You can't be having two alpha career people and no one's at home. You know, that's not equally yoked. Equally yoked doesn't mean doing the same things. It means having that balance, the good team effort. Like you're a goalie, I'm a shooter. You know, two different jobs that are being done.
No,
at
I hear
an
you.
equally high level.
That's right.
That's what equally yoked means.
Agreed.
It's
That's
not
a
like,
really good.
and in today's
analogy.
world, what is that's why a family works. It's that team, but the purpose is to raise kids and to father them to have good kids, hopefully, which means they're going to be 20 years or something like that. So if you can do that without having a wife or a husband,
Now that's where the trickiness
why do you have
comes
to
into
do
it.
that,
Can you
right?
do it without a
Can
wife
you?
or a husband? I've heard
The data shows it's
data
not a great
shows it's
idea.
not yeah, Jordan points it out quite often. Do you have some commentary on the data, how that goes?
Well, I think, one of the guys from the space always says, like, in the fatherless households, which is obviously a huge problem, is fathers keep, what does he say? Fathers keep girls, their daughters off stripper poles and the boys out of prison.
There you go.
And like,
huge.
that's facts. Like,
yeah, that's daddy issues and that's mom. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like what we have with the 1964 coming on. So like there's the divorce rates just went right up since 1964, and the contraception pill, they kind of went right up.
and the
A lot
marriage
bigger.
rates just went right down.
Down.
I saw the chart on that, and it's at the lowest point
but I mean,
ever
And
right
then
now.
we had the red pill come, which is where we're no longer treating people in this blue pill mentality, which is like chivalrously, because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because like when you treat
I
somebody
will say
well
this,
and you
the
treat
more
somebody
the
nice,
more I've
they're not
played-
reacting to this.
The more
in the
I've
same
played
way.
with the blue pill and red pill, which hasn't been long, so this is definitely half baked and doughy. But I do know that if you're fishing for trout, you got to use trout bait. You know, and if you're fishing for snook, you got to go out there with a shrimp or something. You know, it's going to hit the bait. If I'm going after a girl that's been, steeped in maybe she has daddy issues, stripper, whatever, and I try and show her like I'm one of those little birds of paradise, showing her like a beautiful life,
like
with
a bowerbird.
Yeah, I'm like, look at the kids we could have. Look at how nice I'm going to be to my kid. She's not going to read into any. That bait's like she doesn't see attractiveness.
That's
in
blue
that.
pill.
Right? I know, but it's also to say that the blue. Okay, because we're talking about a lot of people here in general circumstances. So
Well,
the
I was
blue
trying
pill,
to elicit that with the 1964, the contraceptive, divorce rates go up, marriage goes down, red pill goes up, and why? Because families they're not happening.
they're having more.
There's not a lot of
They're
quality
having more
families.
sex. Without having to worry about kids. Because if you have sex and you don't worry about kids, that interaction obviously went down in importance much more.
The data on that shows that it's probably the women that are having more sex. The men aren't.
Fine, but
Which is interesting.
right, but they're having more sex
The
without
roles
that,
have changed, swapped. The women
know.
are now the promiscuous more. Well, they have the ability to be more promiscuous than most males, unless you're talking about your top tier blue check males, which are like they can.
Yeah, the top.
They have
They're
still
all
the
after the top
the run of
20%.
They can do whatever they want, but still, you have like I hate to do this to women, but like a number 5 or or an average girl can get way more D than say an average man can get P.
Gotcha.
But
I
this.
agree with that.
Well, we can probably put this up on the screen, but just since 2008, this is from like the CDC on like virginity rates of men under 30. It was 8% in 2008. It's 27% in 2018. Literally,
2008. Wow.
so literally in
Maybe
10,
we got more
10
honest
years,
guys.
it basically tripled. And
Holy cannoli!
it's like, okay, what's the girl side of it?
And you also have the advent of phones, pornography, easy access to pornography.
Oh,
Guys,
glamorizing
there's
Hodem.
social-
You got like Doja Cat. You
There's
got like
two.
this whole entire culture, this pop culture, which is like it's great to go out and get on and grind out them D's, and it's like it's glamorized. Whereas like
well, kids
It
are
used to be-
listening to that stuff,
Yeah.
like 9-10-year-old kids, man.
Even
And that's
the-
when it
they-
starts, man.
the
Out there in the
exactly
ghetto.
right. That's
I
when
think
it
there's like
starts.
we were talking about like
I see an offensive move on the
What you call
family
it?
the more I see all this stuff. I see an offensive move on the family because, like in 2008, the phones, pornography, you had to get on your computer, on your desktop, if you're really going to access it, or go down the store and find one of those spots where they sold these kind of things. Now it's right in your phone, dude. And like that, if that statistic is true and men are answering honestly on it, men get what they want. So like if you want something, a lot of times, man, like what I hear talked up over and over again is it's the inability to socially connect with a female. And so they get frustrated and they stop and they don't understand how much work it takes to actually understand what a female is like, who they are under the different circumstances, and how the laws of attraction work once you
they
get there.
don't work the same way. They're raised to think that if you do this chivalrous blue pill,
Not all
then
the
you're
men
going
are.
to get girl. Well, most of us are still to this day. I mean, most of us
No,
have
I
been
agree
raised on the
with-
Lion King and like Aladdin, like where you open doors for girls. I know I was. I was raised that way. I know a lot of you were raised that way. A lot of
Yeah.
my friends were, and even my friends that weren't, that were like thug rapper.
Okay.
Like dudes that were like, dude.
So
Just
I
throw
don't want you to
down.
miss my point. I agree that the women, the target, the fish that we're going for has changed. But I'm thinking that the men aren't trying hard enough to understand what's going on because they have the friend group, they have the pornography, they have these different easy access things that'll keep them stunted in their growth. I'm not saying that's the only thing either. I feel like the women are hurting themselves.
That's
quite a
100%
bit
what
with
they're
what's
doing.
going on.
Yeah, we were talking about how what is it called body counts and some of these
And keep it
girls.
general, guys. If anybody's taking offense to this, we're speaking generally, and we're not saying like the women in college.
Get in the comments and talk about it. Let us know what you find offensive. Let us know
one of those
what's going on with
young
the
ladies
terminology.
that has kept herself pure and is part of the blue pill culture.
Hit
talk
Mike
about
up
it.
in the DMs because he needs a wife.
Or
Wonder
Joe,
where you guys
too.
are
Joe
going.
needs you.
I think
I still need to learn how to talk to girls
No, you do great. Yeah.
first.
to do
Whoa.
back to school.
Yeah, got to go back to
Though
school.
I think the 2008 thing, the advent of the phone and the social media, I think also changed the game on it because for all of human history, the dating market was literally your local market, like the people literally in your school, in your town, and then through friends of friends or whatever. That was
Before
like
dating
that was
apps,
like your
right?
that was your option, yeah. So in 2008, whereas now when social media comes along, now all of a sudden the dating market's literally global. Like girls are getting flown across the country to meet guys.
Yep.
Like
Yeah, it's messed up.
it's like the whole dynamic has changed, and now you can
like a
you
concession
can meet
stand.
people.
Yeah.
So the girls now
Phone.
get so much attention on social media that number one, it has raised their standards to unseen levels. Like
yeah, that's that 5 thinking she's a 10.
yeah,
deal
because
going on.
they will get more attention.
Oh, I see that quite a lot.
Yeah, they will
I
get
will admit
the attention they get makes them think that they deserve.
it's an inflated sense
Top
of
tier.
importance.
that
an
blows that
inflated sense of-
hypergamy out.
Well, that's what they say.
yin-yang.
They're
It's
like, hypergamy
okay,
right
it's
now
already
is on
happening, but
steroids.
Now it's just called.
So yeah, that's one.
Holy cannoli.
That's one big element I think too why these numbers are changing, and it's the more I look at it too, it's in the Christian community as well. A lot of this stuff,
For sure.
and back to the
Can't deny that.
the body count numbers, like that's just been shocking to learn some of that lately. I'm like,
Oh my God. It's like shocking, depressing,
it's depressing, frankly.
scary.
Lots of hoe bags.
There's
out there.
well,
Lots of fields have been plowed straight to the bedrock, baby.
And you can't grow anything on them.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
we
just
were
like,
talking about this, Joe, the other day, where it's almost like a paradox, and it'll be interesting to see what the people think in the comments on this, because it's kind of it's a theory I have on how, because of the social media market today, dating apps, whatever, that even like a girl that grows up in a wonderful Christian environment, if she's like at a certain level of, like, if she's a super beautiful girl, the attention she's going to start receiving at like late teens on social media,
Oh my
and if she gets on
God.
dating apps, like I don't think
Ridiculous.
they don't survive that intact.
I don't think
That-
they can. Even
I don't
if they're
think.
modest.
I think if we
even
went
if
through
they're
that,
cool prudes, it's like, oh my God.
yeah, if we had that attention, I don't think we would either. And like I've asked
Yeah,
numerous
no.
girls now,
Nope.
like,
Infected
do you
in
think,
mushroom.
I've asked the specific question, Do you think girls between like the age of 18 to 22 have the ability to choose men like in any sort of proper way? Like, and all of them said no. Like, we have no idea what we're doing. Like, they all admitted they've made tons of terrible mistakes in those same ages,
That's
in that
life,
age group.
yeah.
Even
And-
worse now, though.
Yeah,
they have it on the
I
social
think
media.
it's obviously always been a problem, but it's the social media aspect just opens up another whole level of it.
Like you said, it's like interstate commerce, dude. They can get some guy like this one girl I was talking. She like there's guys from like across this, a pond that can go out and talk to him and be like, "I'll fly you over and we'll do this and we'll do that."
Common happens all the time.
Come on,
yeah.
basically
they got they got
prostitution.
this stanky ass shrimp bait, man.
It's
they go in there, it's hard to-
prostitution.
yeah.
Yeah.
I basically dated a girl freaking across the world. Like, I'm part of the problem in one sense.
Well, were you baiting her in with?
no, not at all.
No. Okay.
There
Well,
was
then
no.
it's not
I mean, I was
necessary.
just
you guys
traveling.
Were pen pals, you know.
Yeah, we just kind of started as pen pals, and then just ended up meeting in my travels because I did a lot of traveling.
Nothing wrong with that. I think Joe's talking about like
Yeah,
I'm talking about
those-
social
checkmark
media,
guys.
and then a guy's like, "You're hot.
Yeah, those-
I'm gonna fly you over. I'm gonna wine and dine you."
Yeah.
And then the guy that's like a cool dude, that's like handsome or what? Maybe he's not a total beta, whatever. He's just not as exciting.
Yeah.
You're young. You want to travel the world. You can get enticed by just, oh, you know what? I don't really like him, but I'm just gonna go out and experience and maybe go to a new state because I'm bored here.
Mhm.
These are all these temptations that these girls have to put up with. That it's like,
Yeah.
why not do it? You could. She doesn't have to bang the dude. Maybe
Mhm.
she will when she gets wine and dine. I don't know. Maybe she won't. But at the least, she can go out and use these dudes as much as she wants to.
Yeah.
It's power again.
Which
You know,
is
she senses the power
infected
for
in
what
her
she
mushroom.
has. She has her body. She has this image she puts out on her social media, and that's getting her interaction that she likes.
Not all the time. Like, even prudes is what I'm saying. Like, if there's a beautiful woman that's pretty modest, guys can look at her and be like, they can tell that she's beautiful underneath the...
So how does that
baggy
mean not all the
sweatshirt.
time? That means that it's almost all the time.
It
and
means
even.
that it's, unless you don't have social media, you probably will get confronted with this if you're a beautiful female.
That's the way it's always been, though. Look at Rachel,
But
in
not on
Bible.
the
Or is it
scale, bro.
Who's Abraham's wife? I think it was
like Mike was
Rachel,
saying, that's
right?
going to be like in your
like
town,
when
bro.
Rachel, when they went to, I forget, I think it may have been.
He said he was his sister.
said it was
right?
his brother. Yeah, because he didn't want to get killed because he knew she's like they're just gonna look at her and they're gonna want her, and so luckily that king was like he prayed to God. He's like, God, I didn't know. So how can you screw me for not knowing? And God's like, I know, so you're okay. But at that point in time, the rules have been the same. So
Yeah,
women
it just
who are really
escalated.
beautiful, they still get a lot of
He was also a really
attention.
He was on the higher echelons of society, so she's getting essentially back then that would be like you
Just
being
kind of
put
like
on
a
a
queen.
pedestal. The whole town's looking
absolutely,
at you.
and she
you
was
know?
beautiful enough to
Yeah.
merit that just by walking in the town.
Yeah,
So
people talk, man.
we're
It's
talking
like, did
about
you see that girl
it's
by the well
power though. We're
yesterday?
talking about power again.
my God.
Power and what a woman has.
Mm.
So I think that a lot of the more beautiful
Beauty
ones.
has a massive amount of value, which is what they were talking about. Like, if you get cranked out of the uterus and you're a gorgeous woman, you have
You're
like
born with
a giant value, like $1 million.
You're born
bucks.
a billionaire.
Born a billionaire.
Like, if you can, like, that's what
Spawn
that's
the
another
lottery.
phrase they say. Women are born with their value and they just have to retain it, and men are born with zero value and have to build it.
Have to attain it. Yeah, we have to work.
Well, I think that's a little superficial.
Well,
because,
it's
it-
an
I'm gonna-
extreme.
This is
Yeah.
another one
It's
of
a
those things where we're
hyperbolic
talking-
statement.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely. Because you have to be top value in structures like that. Many times, lots of beautiful women fall prey to
And we're doing that a lot in
prostitution.
these conversations.
And they
There's
get
a lot.
that's
of
why
Yep.
that's why we're doing this,
Yep.
because I want people to remember that this is we're being very 10% in some ways. So when a beautiful, like when you look at the prostitution, like a lot of the women who end up making careers out of this stuff, they're beautiful women that have unfortunately been unable to identify themselves in the world outside of what they had as a sexual offering or what their beauty had.
daddy issues, right?
Not only daddy issues. I mean,
Well, I mean, girls can start an OnlyFans and make a bunch of cash, and they don't even have to show
It's
all
promoted
their
today.
skin. They can be,
Sure.
they can just
It's
be very
insane.
scantily clad, right?
And so-
from what I hear,
right. So when I think about
Never
Red
done
Pill,
on
when we
an
think about Red
OnlyFans.
Pill, we see a domain of dating that people aren't interested. What they're missing out on, it seems to me, is long-term investment. So the long-term investment goal for you can only be made clear if you know how good of an investment it is. And I feel like a good family, or at least seeing some good families around you, are going to indicate that, yeah, the long-term investment's worth waiting or keeping your body count down for. so that you can have this, because once time becomes really real to you and you're past 28, 30 years old, then the table turns, right, guys? Then the table turns. So then you have men who are now, because we're talking about women in age bracket between 18 and maybe 27, 26.
To clarify too on
right,
like what their peak, like it's kind of it's a mean thing to kind of say, but
go for it though. Statistics.
It's kind of, they I think surveyed men as far as like what age they find the most attractive. I think it was like 23 to 24,
right?
Maybe 22 to 24, somewhere in there. So that's kind of like what they consider the peak for women, just based off that survey. Now,
based off of modeling contracts too.
Yeah, and then where men, it's like 35. And that's for multiple reasons, because men, like, we kind of age like wine, like a lot. Like, I was so dopey looking when I was in my young 20s. Like, I was just
that's true for women too, though.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
And some,
for a fact,
they get better at 35.
There are some women that are kind of following the ugly duckling thing, and they don't look that great in their early 20s and stuff.
It's not the majority, though.
No, well, I'll tell you this. I see this happen a lot.
Unless they've been in the gym.
I see women that look attractive. They're like maybe 18 to early 20s.
This is a small ass
and then
demographic.
No,
Johnny
dude, this happens
Salami.
quite a lot. I've seen this happen quite a lot. They get to looking like crap when they're like, I guess their bodies fill out. They don't take care of themselves for one reason or another. They just don't look as good. I feel like there's a maturity of the bone structure of the face that completes in a woman when they're around, I'd say 28. And that's what you're going to be stuck with for the rest of, like, till she's 60. So, and I feel like some of the women look really nice and girlish.
60? What?
Like the bone structure, like the way your woman's going to look
The
for,
same
for
since
most,
60? I don't think so.
for most of her life past, like the bone structure, for what I can tell, changes in a woman when she's around, finally kind of completes when she's around.
John, this is
30.
like
I haven't paid that close attention.
Me neither. But
It's just maturity of the human body.
the
You can
guys
see that
when you're
everywhere.
going
guys,
back,
yeah.
the guys when we're 30 plus, we got usually career going, and you're stable.
Yeah, the traits
like-
that are attractive for
Right.
men are not beauty related near as much. So
Right.
plus
It's
we
more like
end
a
up
stability
looking
thing.
better. Like, I was thinking of like how many actors look better, like freaking 40 or more.
Men generally look a little better as they age.
Yeah.
Women generally don't.
Yeah, that's okay to acknowledge. Right. I just feel like you know what you're going to get.
Mhm.
But at
around
28,
28,
you're
30,
saying that
yeah.
that's kind of where you're long.
Yeah, that's where I
Yeah.
feel like you're going to know what you're going to get.
It's-
Right. And that's generally where that body count is at its highest, and not the highest. Or when they have those come to Jesus moments, 28, 32.
That's the epiphany stage that he talks about.
Right.
Because
They're
it's
like,
kind of
maybe
like
I won't be a hoe anymore and start a family.
to give the timeline, which we can maybe pull that up on there. It's in my opinion, I was like, they can't really timeline out a human, like. But then when I started thinking about people in my own life, to family members, like, so many people followed the timeline.
Dude.
I even asked my mom, and she did. She kind of followed the timeline.
Dude, my mom
No,
too. 32, she did.
Yeah, and so the timeline is basically like
30. Yeah.
like 18 to 28 is kind of like the party years where where women will make a lot of like generally their bad decisions.
That's girls just want to have fun. But
Yeah, this is girls just want to have fun.
So do the guys. I mean, I really don't see many guys, especially in college. They're probably. I mean, now.
Yeah, it goes both
I
ways.
think
But
it
guys-
totally does, dude.
Guy-
Totally. But the
guys
thing is
are-
like,
I mean, I just want to level the playing field by saying that women are imitating men's more promiscuous, or coming out
Exactly.
of the closet,
Yep.
so to speak, with their
Yeah.
promiscuous desires
Yeah.
now than
Yep.
ever before.
yeah,
And then-
they're owning it now. They're like, yeah, we like to have sex, and we do it whenever we want. Now,
And
how
they
about
they
that?
just don't
Doesn't
even have to
diminish
try.
the
They just have
value.
to be there, and it just comes to them. But yeah, but then at age like 18 or 29 to 31 is what they refer to as the epiphany stage, where it's kind of if they were religious, they're probably coming back to Jesus then, which I mean is good. Hopefully it's sincere.
Prodigal son stands
Yeah.
for prodigal daughter too.
Prodigal daughter.
Yep.
And then that's when they're like, okay, now I got to change the type of guy I'm dating now from the more short-term mentality to like, I need to find that provision, like provider, protector, etc. And
Which is sad because I think so many.
We'll elaborate on that really quick, because they want that long-term quality, high-value male, but they've got what's going on? Does that high-quality value male really want them?
well, that's just,
Anymore.
yeah, that's
Anymore.
that's the question, and
Well,
that's
fine,
where
yeah.
If I'm going to the car dealership,
well, it depends. That's what
going
that's
for that
where
high
they,
mile Acura,
You gotta
I'm gonna
hope-
go for that. What's going on?
And
there?
that comes back to the like promiscuity in the past. Like if
And
they
they're locked in that overblown hypergamy, so they really think they can do that, right?
yeah,
They
think,
believe it.
You know, they'll think a guy like I don't know if no one tells women how much guys care about their past. And the phrase that the red pill
they
guys
do.
will use
They do.
is
They
that
had a mother.
yeah.
You care about the miles on your car.
Well,
You
yeah.
care about the past of your woman.
right. Well, guys
I
do
think
that, but
that-
I don't think girls understand that. A
No,
lot
they-
of them don't.
I think that a contemporary
I think they
society
wanna-
right
they're
now
just
they're
like,
trying
you
to
need
to accept me
downplay
for
that.
who I
They're
am.
trying to downplay that because like look at Nicki Minaj and all these like dude I'm not sure I know if any of them have a husband. I don't know.
They
Or
don't.
do
They don't
they?
last
Did
long.
any-
From
They
do
don't need. Why
No,
would
they're
they
not.
need one?
So
Do they have?
what I'm trying
a
to
need
say is
for
that I
one?
don't think that they're successfully again just showing these kids that there's a family to look forward to.
Mhm.
You know, they're showing runs in the hay. They're, you know, it's all this high. It's like a Hollywood movie. You know,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with long-term investment, and long-term investment has to be taught.
yeah.
So, I mean, the body count thing, yeah, it matters.
Well, the
it
data
might not
like
matter to a guy who's just going to hook up with a chick for a night.
right.
Of
the
course
guy
not. He
it's-
doesn't care at
no.
all.
But for
that's
long-term,
that's another red
matters.
pill thing. It's like women have to understand that you know, hopefully it's not in the Christian community, but in the non-Christian community, you know, there's two things they're looking at a girl for. One is like, you know, kind of recreational use, which is a terrible thing to say, and then the other one is wife material. Well, if they're giving you attention, like you gotta, which one is it? Like you can't, like if they're just after you for one thing, like
And generally, it's gonna be recreational
Yeah.
use in today's
yeah,
what we got going
Well, I
on,
mean,
which is
that's what
why
we get
red
sold.
pill is so big of a deal.
yeah,
Is because guys are like, if I treat a woman good, I'm gonna get crap.
yeah. Nice guys
Okay.
finish last is kind of
Right.
the mentality. in a
That's
lot of
what it
cases.
is. Yeah, and the girls, they don't like respect those dudes anymore. It's not like they don't find them attractive.
I just want to point out that
Once again, the
for
majority
quality, if you
terminology.
want to go back to you're talking about very slim margins. So if you're trying to find wife material, you need to accept point blank
getting a plane ticket and flying to the Middle East.
or South America.
learning a new language, I guess. No, you need to accept that the margins.
It goes into the culture so strongly, though. Like our culture in the United States, and kind of like is it's got a lot of garb going on right now.
That's precisely what I'm saying. So that's going to cause a lot of young women to sell themselves short, and then the what we have is no families. We have very weak families.
They
As
don't
a
have the
result.
proper
Yeah, we have
examples.
more and more people
It's a
wrapped up
cycle.
with bitterness and resentment from that cycle on both sides. Because I mean, it's just a matter of age. No one wants to marry a 40-year-old Doja Cat. Sorry,
Dude,
It's not-
atomic bombs kill people,
But
but the lack of a family destroys civilization.
that's right. And so I
Destroys
mean,
nations.
and
yeah.
I think that's
Yes.
that's what I acknowledge when I see the red pill thing. I see the very real offense that Satan's putting up through our entertainment.
Absolutely,
through our
destroying
art,
a family,
through-
destroying families.
and destroying the ability to teach. And that's what families, that's the agency of families, is teaching these very important things to. It's not just somebody you love, it's not just somebody you have sex with. And I feel like this is the saddest part. From being married, I can start to acknowledge some of the beautiful fruits that you get to bear and take part in when you have long-term relationship. And it's, yes, the sex is good, these things are wonderful, and for people who haven't had it, you tend to fixate on it because that's what you do. It's what you don't know. We've had relationships that are nice where we share our hearts and souls, but it's different and stands alone when you do have a wife you do that with. And it's hard to put that in a song, it's hard to put that into a movie, it's hard to have
That's been
these
done a
short
long
release
time. No, that's been done a long time. We got the fairy tales. I mean, we have
You get-
been
I mean,
indoctrinated.
what I'm
to
telling you is it
value
hasn't been
that.
done for a long time, not through those means.
They're
Because
saying women don't need men anymore to play those roles. There's not a whole lot of. There's not.
what
need
I'm
for
saying
it
is
as
that
much.
in order for a person to fully understand that, they need to be around it and encounter it with putting the risk that it takes to put yourself with somebody that you don't know completely. There's always going to be an element of risk.
Giant.
When you get married to a woman, you don't know her completely. And then what do you do?
only know as much as a woman
Well, so
will tell you.
that's
about
why we
herself.
go back to being equally yoked. So hopefully you
See,
marry
you
into
only
a
know as
woman
much as
who's
she
being
feels like
honest, right? Hopefully, and then God has providence and you guys meeting each other. But that's not something easily represented in a movie or a song.
Right.
It's not something that you can even go talk to somebody and spend days with them. It's something so unique to the relationship that once it's taken away, people don't know that something's been missing until it's almost like it's a tragedy for the reason that it's been so hard to describe. That's what I feel.
To bring it back to the body count conversation, well, to the one of the phrases, another one we could bring up, they say is, men care about a woman's past and women care about a man's future.
No, that's a good one.
And like, I guess a question for the table is there like a line in the sand for you if you were to find out about a woman's past that is like, nope, I'm done, I'm out?
Yeah, like gangbangs, not happening, dude. Tons of those,
Not
man, yeah.
happening.
Yeah, was
And that's funny because girls are like selective memory. Like, that didn't happen.
that's not one you want to be with. Ew.
Even if they
It's
came back to Jesus as the prodigal daughter, would that like
Oh,
what
God.
level of a past would still just be like, nope?
So I'm gonna say
I
something
can't
that's
say.
horrifying, but I depend on how hot she is.
Well, I think that's the case. That's frankly the case with everything, right? How much the hot to crazy scale, like how hot does she have to be to deal with what level?
I always equate a woman,
Yeah.
like, how good is her rationale? Like, if she came from a family that was great, you know, and she had no real excuse that I could pen down and say, okay, well, that messed her up, and she just decided to be worldly at the expense of her body and her future husband, then I'd say she might do that again,
Yeah.
because that's just a bad character trait that I'd be like, damn, that's brutal. But if she grew up out of a household where, say, she was, you know, a single
But then
mom,
you got the
left on her
Amish
own-
guys that do the same stuff. You know
What? Just hang on, Joe. So, like, if you like, what do you mean?
I'm just saying it works both ways. Like, people that have lived a very conservative life will go out and want to
I just
experiment.
described that, and I said that would be a person I'd be less, I'd take less of a bet on. So if it was in the table is switched, where a woman has grown up in a
Kind of
really
a mess.
brutal situation, yeah, and she has come to the knowledge after this out of ignorance, that'd be more of a person I'd trust.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, because I've thought about it myself. Like, if someone just if they grew up in an environment where they had no really, like, the way that they live just is what you would expect almost,
Mhm.
just because of the environment. And then let's just say they had their come to Jesus moment, change your life. Like, I would view that much differently than someone who was like raised in that Christian home. They know better.
Steeped.
And then they just kind of had their fallen away period and then came back to like that. I would view those two situations differently.
Me too.
They're tough because you got the memories of like the party lifestyle and like, you know, those memories you can't just like press a button and be like, that's compartmentalized and we're not going there anymore. You know, she's gonna think about those fun times, and you never know how.
And
how
some
that
of
works
the
out
some of the
in
data
future.
on
It's
it,
true.
to just to bring it up, is like, there's some graphs on, if you look at, I can't find them specifically, if you look at the correlation of partner count to marital success and happiness, it all correlates to just the higher the count, everything just goes down. And it goes down like with women more than men.
Oh,
even.
for sure.
And so like we're talking low numbers too, compared to like women that get married as virgins are like by far, and we're talking like 30% difference in marital happiness.
That's
versus,
insane.
Versus like like from that point, it's just like a quick downward scale.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something to think about.
It's almost like eating the fruit. Like Adam and Eve weren't as close to God after they ate the fruit. And it almost interferes with intimacy the more you go and be worldly and do bad stuff. Like, if you tell your husband about your experiences and you can tell it hurts him, or vice versa, a husband tells his wife about his past and it hurts them, that causes distance.
Mhm.
Even if there's a desire to forgive and everything else, it's just kind of like, who is that person? And man, why would you do those things? You know, all these questions are just rough.
They are rough.
To answer, you know, and
rough.
it's like eating the fruit. It's like you will die. You're not gonna be as close to God anymore. You make an exchange, I think, is what I'm
Which is
realizing.
why I brought up, is like you're making that exchange and you're also making a compromise on like, okay, if she's got a past, what is this past that I'm willing to deal with, and what is the defining fact? She's a really good person. Well, obviously she's a really good person. She might not be super great looking, because we were just talking about this. The really good looking girls have so many options and they have so much temptation that a lot of times they're the ones who have the most brutal pasts in terms of like body count and that kind of stuff.
Could be. I mean, could be. You're right. I mean,
Unless
if
they
you're
get married really
Same with
young
the
and
handsome
get
guys,
pulled out.
it's not like it's any different
well,
for
like
dudes.
I think this is the saddest part. Is like when like say for instance you come out of a long-term relationship.
Yes.
You know, like
I've been like
a lot of times the body
cryogenic
count will go up because of that when they forget that they're a very high valued person at that point in time. Because it's like, how many times will you find? For me, I would be interested in that. Like if I was, say, 30 and I met a woman that came out of a 9 or 10-year relationship, I'd be like, that woman already knows commitment. She already knows her body count can't be that high,
You're right.
especially when you find out what she came out of, like if it wasn't for infidelity or something like that. So like for you, acknowledging your worth, or you, like these two unicorns right here, ladies, these guys have extremely high value because they have careers, they're good at stuff, they know what they're doing, and they don't have a checkered past. They know well, Joe specifically knows what long-term relationship is like. He knows what looking out for a female is like for not just 2, 3, 4, but 12 years. So he's learned a lot in that domain. That kind of learning, and I'd like to put that out to like the Rollo crew, is what they're after. They really are after that. Not the easy, quick, how you doing? Let's have a nice night. Because then you're just bagging the shitty fish that you really don't want. It's like, do you really just want to have a one-night stand?
It's catch and release.
Well, catch and release.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, it's in the bag for a moment.
And it
You
leads
let it
to
out.
emptiness, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. I was just
And
listening.
unfortunately, you degrade your own value in the process. Right?
Yeah,
Not as much
both
as a
sides get
male
degraded,
as a
but
female,
yeah.
But then that's statistically saying. I'm not saying that I believe this. I believe that it's the same. But statistically, for the women,
I mean,
it's
if
usually
for
harsher
gay
than
dudes,
for-
those guys don't care.
They're the most promiscuous. But
promiscuous
guys don't.
out of
They
them
don't
all.
really care until they get AIDS.
And
Well,
a
I
lot
mean,
of
that's
these
right.
like
And they're dead.
promiscuous men too, they have major regrets later. Like if you ever listen to interviews of like Neil Strauss, the guy that wrote The Game, he wrote a book called like The Consequences of the Game, and it like he had to go to therapy. He wanted to get married, immediately cheated. Like he realized that lifestyle just, it gets so programmed into your brain, and then you can't get out of it. And
You've eaten the fruit.
Yeah.
You know, you've created
and I think
distance
that's
between you
the
and
problem
intimacy.
for men too. Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
just become so hardened to it, and it just becomes like a physical act that has zero meaning in their mind, and they just go from one to the next to the next.
Yeah, and that becomes like the Band-Aid that turns into a scar. You know, that just really, that's who they are. They identify with it so strongly. I know that it's not an easy beat and grind out there for the men dating and the women dating as well. But my encouragement is that, number one, the Bible doesn't guarantee us all mates. It's not, there's not a verse in there that says I guarantee everyone, a man and a woman, to have this wonderful union of marriage. But what it does guarantee is we have a relationship with him if we do desire it to be so. And so I would encourage those who are maybe, you know, stoking coals right now, waiting a long time, what may have you, to pour into the Lord and allow him to refresh you, because that's possible too. And I'll share my little, I think I already did, but I'll share it again. Anyway, when I allowed the Lord to be number one for me, and really was able to look at my statistic panel and say, well, I'm giving 90% of my time to pursuit of women, my thought time, my actual time. And, you know, all 10% was going to the Lord and other activities. That's a grave exaggeration. But nonetheless, it was out of whack, and I acknowledged the Lord. I'm really in my heart settle on the fact, dear enough. I met my wife like a month and a half afterwards. I'm not saying that's the way it is all the time, but acknowledging that God is an infinite, big, living God. He wants to feed us what we need to get by. And the last thing we want to do is be like the Jews in the desert, like, you know, I want meat, give me meat. Wah. And they give them meat, and they're covered in rotten, you know, quail, and it's just never good enough. Because marriage is really hard. You know, and long-term relationship is really hard. As Joe knows, it comes with its own set of challenges, and they're real challenges that shape you if handled good. You know, putting God first, equally yoked, all that stuff. They really make you your connection with God closer, as you're sharing that with someone else.
Well,
But
it's the union of Christ and the church, right?
Exactly. Ultimately,
That's
we're
that,
marrying that.
Typology over you.
Yep. Typology reflecting that closeness, which is, I don't know about you guys, but that's what I look forward to the most.
Yeah.
That's true intimacy and closeness. It's a great gift.
And
Bow
it's
on
nice
salvation.
to think about those things, and you know, it's true. And but for a lot of guys that are actually looking for a wife and the prospects or that are such a way, it's not really, I mean, it's putting faith in God, but you have to be a faithful steward with what you're given, which means you have to get out there, which means you have to explore, which means you have to learn, you have to do these things. You can't just sit back and read your Bible and hope God just puts a woman in your front door one day. You know, that's not going to happen for a lot of you guys.
I'm not disencouraging guys to put themselves, to live a life. What I'm disencouraging them is like encountering a body.
That's a lot of what's going on with a lot of the guys right now. It's like they're frustrated with what's going on in the dating world, and then they
part of that is just how the apps are designed too. And I'm curious, since you're new to the dating world, Joe, what's been your experience? What do you think?
Well, first of all, black girls really like me a lot. I found that one out. And
you've always known that, Joe.
I think it's because I have long, straight hair.
They want your hair.
They want my long, straight hair because they have curly hair. We all just want what we can't have. And okay, so dating apps. Yeah, I got on to Tinder and to Hinge to see what it was like. Set up a profile. I have to put up my modeling pics because those are the best high quality pictures.
They probably think they're fake. They're like, this guy.
No, I had a blue check by it, so they know I'm legit. I don't know how legit that is, but anyways,
hey.
I say I like prudes and love Jesus. Like that's pretty much what I'm about.
That's a nice. I like that, Joe.
So if you dig that,
quick
then cool.
and to the point.
Yep. So I've had absolutely zero success with them. I feel like
that sounds about right.
They probably negative success. Hinge is just pure trucks, man. I'm talking like semi trucks, like 180 to 280, baby. You know, nice big plumpers.
Dang, man.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a single babe on
Mike
there.
That red in the face.
It's I don't really go on that app very much. Top picks are like, going down to Arcadia auction.
I don't know what you must have.
Dang.
Downloaded a different version of the app because that is not my experience on there.
Yeah, I love it.
There's a lot of beautiful girls on there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
I don't either, dude. I'm like, what about me says I like these XXLs, man? Like, I don't know.
Did you mess up with like do they allow you to pick that kind of stuff?
No. It's just, I think
it's
they
like an age bracket or something.
Yeah. And also black girls. Like, that's what I see a lot of. So I'm it's just like, you know, they pretty much nailed what I like, giving me copious amounts of it. And
how much time have you spent on these things?
A lot.
Yeah.
You know, I've been trying to like go through my
Have you dealt with
tinnitus.
Have you dealt with like many conversations and dealt with the flaking and
no, I
ghosting?
dealt with so one girl was a guy.
Oh my God.
You know,
one girl was a guy.
One girl was a gay guy. And I figured that out pretty quick, and I was like, "Man, that's such a great experience!" Like
that's you should flag that profile, man.
I totally did.
Good.
I was like, "Dude,
not fair."
Thanks for.
Can't come in here with a swinging D. What did you have pictures of like a hot girl up?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, this is finally got a hot chick." Like I'm stoked. I'm like, this girl's like hot.
Have you seen the couple profiles?
Where did he think that was gonna go?
He probably thought he could get some dick pics or something and was like,
"Oh, that's true.
This is the way it's going to go. We'll get into we'll get this guy."
And just in the interest of the story, how'd you find out? Where'd your gaydar
My
go
gaydar went up when I was like, "This is too aggressive," you know.
Like, this is not a chick.
No, that's how a guy would act.
That's just how a guy would act. Exactly. I was like, wait a minute. This is a dude. This is a dude. And called him out on it, and it was right, dude. I just went straight for the jugular on that bitch, dude. My intuition went,
you know how to dodge catfish right away.
Yeah, that made me feel great after I was done with that. I was like, the confidence went up really high.
What would you call that? If a catfish is like a butterface,
that was like
what would you call that?
Catfish a lot of times other genders. Like
really? That's a catfish?
Yeah. That was like a gay catfish.
Lying.
That's a gator. I'd be like, that's straight up trying to eat me. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so you haven't had a good experience.
Not good. No. And I feel like it just sucks time and gives you nothing out of it.
That was my short experience.
You're like, oh, that's a pretty girl. And you're like, that's a pretty girl. Okay. And that's not a pretty girl. And then you're just like, I'm sitting here going like, I'm like window shopping but not eating anything and just starving to death. And
then
like dopamine goes up and down, and then you get gay dudes.
And then you realize that there's just none in there. I mean, how many? I mean, would the smart thing to do be like how many marriages is reference Tinder?
There's a lot. There's a lot of
dating
new
apps been for you.
Well, to answer that question, I think like a good chunk of new marriages are from apps.
No kidding. Like my buddy.
It's over 50% of new marriages are from apps. Well, Tinder's like
I met your mom on Tinder. Horrifying.
Tinder's like the one app to not use. Like
it's
only
the
app. Yeah, that one's
what apps do you use?
If I use an app, which right now I have a love-hate relationship, so I might use it for like a day out of a month. But it'd be Hinge. That one I think by far is the best.
Okay.
Right, and our buddy
Christian, have you ever tried any
Christian
Mingle thing?
They're pretty terrible from my experience.
You have tried.
Yeah. Not Christian Mingle.
Yeah.
Not Christian Mingle. There's one that's designed I'm like, why would you design your Christian dating app literally to be Tinder in design, but it's aimed at Christian people? So it's like people use it the same way, kind of.
Right. Yes and no, right? I mean,
it's pretty much.
Yep. Yes. It's not like you recite your favorite Bible. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you can have super likes too.
For the same laws of attraction do apply to us believers.
My experience,
like pretty things, of course, charm, all that stuff.
Yeah,
but my experience has been, it's the flakiness and ghosting is just enough to be like, it's just not worth it. Now I've met like some nice girls on it, so it's worked. It's just like the volume you have to run through to get there is ridiculous. Like I can pretty much just predict how things go too. It's like
volume.
It's like, okay, you get a match, and it's gonna be this painful conversation that she might respond like once a day on, and it's just gonna be probably just a response, no continuing the conversation in any sort of thoughtful way.
It's sick.
And then you might get far enough to like, okay, I'm gonna see if she'll go to dinner. And then she'll probably accept that. And then I just figure 50% chance she's flaking on that dinner. And then I'm going to end up going to dinner. And then I'm going to end up going to dinner, spending like, I don't know, $50 to $100 on the dinner. And then I'll probably never see her again.
Yeah, I think the damsel in distress.
It's just like because they have so many options. Yeah. So on the flip side, like,
oh man,
there's a video that, shout out to the Roommates podcast. They had this psychologist lady on, and she was talking about how, she actually wrote a book on like encouraging women to settle in some extent, like settle for good enough, I think it was called. And she was talking how these women, like they would go on a date and their expectations of like the list of things they wanted from a first date to like go on the second one was like a list like 300 long.
Oh,
and men
had a list 300 long.
And men, it was like
no,
3.
Seriously, 300.
That's what she said. The
300.
list. Yeah.
What the?
My guess it was probably survey based, and then the women.
That's flipping nuts.
It was insane, and that's what her point was, and then
it's like control freak.
And then the girls like
hypergamy, dude, on that blown out level.
The girls kind of like go on less dates because they got this problem of just too many options.
Right.
So they'll be talking to you and like, oh, this guy's a pretty good option, and then like they put their phone down. 6 hours later, they got like 4 other guys in their inbox, and then 10 other guys the next morning. And then they just kind of like, oh, throw this guy in the garbage. We'll go to the next guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, when I
you don't even have to be.
I made an app.
More exciting.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what I mean? It's like guys that cheat on their wives. They don't even cheat on with like beautiful girls.
Yeah.
It's just different. That's what your wife was telling me. She's like, it doesn't have to be hotter. She has to just be different.
I made a female.
Mitch told her.
I made a female profile as
wise words, Mitch.
Smart man.
One of my female friends from up in the Fargo area. I made her a profile down here. We want to do an experiment just to see what the girl experience was.
Dude.
Like I literally made that profile in like 30 seconds.
Don't tell us how beautiful she is. Don't you dare cross that line.
I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna. She'll probably watch this. I'm not gonna say a number. But within like 5 minutes, there was like 10 likes on the profile, and then literally within like 2 or 3 days, by the time I shut it off, it was like 250. Which is probably like is insane because like the guy experience on that is like you might get like 5 likes a week.
Yeah.
And so like that's the difference in options, and that's why they are so flaky and go so easy, which you probably can't blame them for because it's like they literally don't know what to do.
No, they're like at the buffet and they're just like, I'll have a bite of this and I'll have a bite of this, and I'll have a bite of this, and they'll just keep doing. That's what happened. That's my experience. It's like you send them one message, just like you're saying, and that's that.
Yeah,
That's
they
it.
just
You'd be like, "How you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing
It's
good."
like you used one wrong word and that wasn't good enough. So
That's all it is ever.
Well,
It's
like,
"How you doing?" Doing
what about
good.
changing the game? Like, I remember my thought was,
Like, what I say wrong? I just said, "How you doing?" Maybe I could say, "How
talked
are
about,
you?"
You talked about like damsel
How you
in
going?
distress, right, Joe?
Okay, damsel in distress.
Yeah, these certain interactions between male and female that are you get a rap. You show a piece of yourself that's not just introductory crap, and they get to see something that they're like, oh, that's the real person. I saw him in a moment where he had to rise to an occasion or whatever, and that to me seems like, I don't know, like, because how do you beat that? What do you use the like? Don't you just
red
waste
pill
time?
it and you go Rollo on
Yeah,
it.
right. That's what
That's
ends up
exactly
happening.
why we're talking about
So what's
this.
a better for the young Christian guys out there? You're going to church now. You've been going to
try to
church
find a girl.
to try, yeah, do a little
or to see
fishing
if
out there.
doing some fishing.
How's that been?
Not good.
Okay.
well, frankly, church.
It's hard to meet girls.
So
Like
this-
Mike told me, he's like, you're gonna
this-
go there, you're gonna sit down, you might see a couple, but then the church service is gonna go over and everyone's out like to the cars.
Yeah, that
You'd be like running after, like, hey, I thought you were kind of cool looking, and let's be friends. And she'd be like hitting you with some spray or something. dude.
Mace.
Yeah,
Don't you have to try that a few times?
it's harder than it looks, but I'm not
It
closing
is
the
harder
book
than
on
it
it,
looks.
but it's definitely like
Oh, I
people
like.
are so busy nowadays. It's like the recreational part of it. It's not as easy. Like
What happened to all those people who are playing matchmaker? Like, hey, I have a friend who's a girl, and you guys would be perfect.
I think
for
that
each
goes
other.
back to families
that's-
and like
Has that ever
Yeah.
happened for you guys?
A little bit, like a little bit.
Matchmakers coming in.
Dude, my mom's like, "Oh, she's so beautiful, the most beautiful girl I ever." I'm like, "Mom, this," and I'm like excited. I'm like, "Yeah, Mom." And then I see her, I'm like, "I don't trust you, Mom."
Yeah, no.
Like, this has happened too many times, but she is beautiful. I'm
My
like,
s-
oh
She'll
my-
actually undercut beautiful ones too. It's like that's mom.
That's what
Mom's
I'm
done
saying.
that before.
Yeah, she'd be like, "Oh, she's
Mom's not our matchmaker.
That's what I'm
Let's get
saying.
That off the
That's
list.
been my experience.
She's looking in the heart. That's for sure.
I will
God
say,
knows they are.
I will say one of my
They are all beautiful.
a decent piece of advice I would from you if you're going to use the apps as a Christian man is I design my profile in a way that just filters out the girls that are promiscuous really
Deal
fast.
breaker, deal breaker, deal breaker.
Not specifically, but I'll make
Joe,
it
I like-
very
what was-
clear.
how did yours go again, really quick?
I like prudes and love Jesus.
That's nice, dude.
I make it very clear what I'm about on my profile, and
They
then,
might think you're totally sarcastic with that. Actually,
it could be
Yeah,
if you're on
Like,
Tinder. Yeah,
that could be like read as the most.
I want sleeper prudes, like gorgeous prude, but not just
doesn't exist.
You need to probably elaborate a little
Yeah,
bit
you
because
need to
they'll
be like,
probably
not
see your
just any
modeling
prude.
pics and be like, this guy needs to go, shut the hell up.
I have
Probably.
elaborated on it.
You have?
It did
Yeah.
nothing.
Did nothing.
Zero.
Well, you remember
Well,
Mike
it's on
talking
that-
about volume.
Well,
He was
that app,
talking
no
about
one
swipes.
no one reads.
Swipe.
They'll read the description after they match with you.
I was thinking about Demolisher and just putting that on there.
That'll get you some great matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Plumber.
shuck oysters. Good to go.
Then I like to lead with this opening question that tells me what the girl's about pretty fast. I kind of pose it like, I got a hypothetical question for you. If you only got to ask one question to a guy before deciding to go on a date, what would it be?
Nice.
And they actually, a lot of them love that question. And I get a
good
lot of
question.
good responses out of it. That tells me, like, you can quickly see the legit Christian girls when literally they'll ask, like, how's your relationship with Jesus as their question. I'm like, okay, that's a great start.
Yeah, it is.
I
yeah.
get that response a lot, but you still get the same behavior out of the Christian girls of the super flakiness, the ghostiness, and it's just like, well,
You got to
It's
start.
still not solving the problem.
No.
It's not.
It's not.
It's
It's like,
just
oh, you
waste.
exist,
Yeah.
but you're gone.
yeah,
And we're still back here.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
so-
why it comes back to, planes, trains, and automobiles and grocery stores and gyms and beaches and movie theaters and
Face to
I don't know,
face.
face to face.
I
Gonna
agree.
rest my case, baby. Yeah.
So red pill to cover a
pill.
lot of subjects here, and I feel like it's really an indicator of the offense that we're seeing on the family, and it sucks. It sucks to be a man or a woman these days trying to find long-term mate.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys,
Gnarly.
all I want to do is remind you two that you guys are very high value.
I'd like to say something too. Is like for me, I've just been trying to learn how to be in a female's presence myself, and like learn how to talk to them. Like that's just me right now.
Didn't you
Like,
do
I'm
that
trying
for like
to
a
do.
decade?
Yeah, with one girl, and then
That's-
before her was another girl, and
Yeah,
that was it.
that's
Like
fine.
dating
You
is
got-
something I'm
it's
not
not-
good at.
I'd like to point something out.
I get around
too.
girls and I get nervous.
On that vein,
I'm
on
like,
that vein.
We all do.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like
everybody does.
3 words in my brain.
I see
like,
them as
you
I see them
are
as
an
sister
idiot.
in Christ now, and
That's
that
4
helps
words.
a lot. But I did want to point something out. I lost my thought.
John told me when you think a girl's attractive, just look at her like, what'd you say?
I usually look at the women, especially if there's my same age. All of them as sisters in Christ. But
You said something else. Kind of diffused the whole attraction thing. You know what I mean? Which I thought was cool.
yeah, try to hold on
It's
to
kind
it.
of weird
Oh, I was almost there.
because you want them to think you're attracted to you, or if you are, why should you hide it? Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't really do you any favors.
No.
You just got to learn to be yourself while you're attracted. Understand what that's like.
Oh yeah, so people with game. This is what it was. So if you have, if this goes for the ladies out there, if you get with a guy that has a lot of game, he's worked hard for that. Okay, and he identifies his character in that. So I look at where Joe's at, where he's acknowledging that these first interactions, right, that require skill, we call game. If you're with a guy and he's got a lot of game and charms you,
Should be a red flag.
it should be, yeah. He's not going to have an easy time turning that game off when he decides on you as a woman, right? He's going to be like, I still need that because that's a big part of my character, is who I am.
That's
So
Same with the girls
women
on
out
the
there,
social media, and like the fresh and fit guy who's like, if I have a girl, I'm gonna probably ask her to cut that stuff out and all that. It's because it's hard for them to turn off that attention.
turn off that attention, turn off that game. So in many ways, you should acknowledge that charm, game, all those things are mechanism for attraction. And if you find a guy who doesn't have that but has a lot of good skills in life and values, the interactions you have, I'm just telling you guys from being married, that happen after that whole honeymoon phase are so much better and so much more interesting than that small little thing that goes on there. So
If
yeah,
meet
you
the
got to
right
learn about it.
person.
Yeah, you got to learn about it. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it's a warning to the young ladies.
I always
especially.
give that warning. I'm like, my advice to like any young girl is if a guy that you meet within like a week has you kind of like head over heels in love with him,
He
he's had
knows too
practice
much.
to do
Yeah.
that. He's had practice to do that. That's
He's went to the
manipulation.
dark side, yeah.
And likely he's got a high body count from doing that. And be
He's a
careful.
player.
Yeah.
He
But-
plays a game.
Yeah.
And girls don't like players, but they love players. Let's
Yeah.
be real.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
So that's
You
a
know.
little bit of a herald to you guys ladies out there. I was
Yeah.
trying to remember what you said about what I told you about.
Just
Oh,
about
in fact-
diffusing a situation that you're nervous about if you find someone attractive.
when I find somebody attractive, I remember now. I tell them that I think they're attractive. I've never had an issue with that, and I told my wife that too. And I'll tell them what I think is attractive about. Get that shit out of the way, And it's like, well, what else do you have? I acknowledge that you're beautiful. These are the things that I like about you. Anybody can tell that, and I'm sure you know that already. But the parts that like the Casanovas and the beautiful like things that it takes a real man to call out of a woman, that's what they're gonna have to sort of sit there and prove.
And that
And
takes
it strips
practice.
away,
You
but
have to
it
just
does
practice
strip
and do
away
it.
the whole power they have in thinking they're so beautiful around you, because it's like, you know what? If I see a beautiful woman and I acknowledge her beauty, then it's like, it's not that that's off the table, but it's like I acknowledge that in front of you. You don't have that as like a in the back of the pocket thing. And I feel like that for me helped me when I was in my dating game, because I was like, well, then what are we going to do? We're going to talk? I mean, that's off the table now.
They have this
it's a good
show about these like people that are dating and they don't get to see each other, live in like separate rooms, and then they just talk. And
Oh,
they
you're
find
talking
out
about, dude, everybody's been watching that one.
yes, my
Love
good
is
friend
Blind.
showed me it.
Love
and-
is Blind,
and
right?
she was like, yeah, and girls like that.
They
Show.
love it.
I was like, oh, I'll watch it.
People are getting on one knee after 3 days. 7 days they're getting on one knee.
I'm sure
It's funny because the guys are like so kind of trying to ask, like trying to figure out like
what would you say if I happened to get on one knee? They'll like do that.
No,
kind of stuff
no, well,
all the
yeah,
time.
that-
I saw it happen.
They're
I
trying to
watched
figure
a
out
few
how
of
they
these.
look without asking them. It's hilarious. They're like, so
Wow.
how often do you go to the gym?
yeah, like stuff like that. Like it's hilarious. And the girls, they don't really care about it as much. Like looks are important. I think they're super. Like, are they important?
Well,
to me,
let's
they're
acknowledge that most
I
of the
think that's
people on
the
that
door opener for a man.
Is
like,
the looks?
yeah.
Are you sexually attracted? Is
Because
there
otherwise,
chemistry
she's
there?
just gonna end up as a friend. Like
most
in my
of the
view.
most of the people on that show are not like 10s though.
Mhm.
Let's acknowledge that though.
No.
They're all people who've had a lot of failure. I think they specifically pick people who have had a lot of failure. Well, now that's the easiest thing to find.
Yeah.
So,
what about
whatever.
The Bachelor? It's like one dude with a bunch of chicks, and all the chicks want one dude, and like all these like, what's up with how is
competition among
this?
the
What's
ladies?
it called?
They just want to
No.
outdo each other. They just like being number one. They're self-congratulatory crap.
They just want the Instagram follows from being on the show,
maybe.
probably.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of like married women that love that show.
Oh, I
do
know.
too.
Every
It's
I
really
don't.
weird.
I don't know a
I think
woman that
they like
doesn't
picking a
it.
winger. You know, like the men, they like going to the horse track. Like
Huh?
that's a winner. That thing's got a nice set
Oh,
of
for
nuts.
the
He's gonna
girls?
run at the track. He's gonna win.
Huh?
And the women, they're like, yeah, she's gonna win. She's the one who's gonna get him. You know, that's the game they're playing in their own heads.
So the like the whole thing is just seems like it's flipping around. You know, it's like used to be like a bunch
betting
of
on a
shit.
winner.
Right.
That's what I think it is.
Betting on a winner.
Yeah, bet on a winner. People
And
love
girls-
doing that. Gives
girls
them a lot
are-
of happiness.
They're in it.
I hope none of those girls take that seriously. Like, I don't know what the behind the scenes is like, but it's like, that man has got all these girls on the show as options, and B, when he leaves that house, he's gonna have so much clout, like social status, to like leverage as well on social media to go get even more. Like,
Crazy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the girls too.
Everybody,
that
when
I've
you flick a
noticed-
camera on,
that-
people just become weird. Not like this kind of a camera. We got like two
definitely
viewers out
weird.
there.
Definitely
But like,
weird.
when you got millions of people viewing you, dang, you get response, everything.
I wanted to say, I think a lot of the chicks too that watch that show are like foreign girls. A
What?
lot of them, like maybe they're not like from like
Oh, I get you.
Mexico, but they're like Ukraine or like Russian girls or like German. Or just like the mostly from there. I think a lot of them because they're trying to get down that like good-looking dude that's American. I think.
maybe.
maybe.
I think 90% of girls
that
I know
green card.
watch that show.
Handsome green card.
So
Probably.
probably, yeah, literally,
The Bachelor.
yeah.
What the heck?
So you don't
I'm
think
trying
it's
to
just
think
that,
of like,
yeah.
You
I can
serious?
probably count like two or three that I know that probably don't.
I'm so happy. Like I was just, admonishing my mom for the pretty girls. So now I'm starting to be like, I love you, Mom. She would never watch that shite.
No.
Well, I don't know if they're like our parent, like my
I don't think
mom's
they're
not
like
watching
older
it, but-
ladies, right? Yeah, they have to be like younger. And
Yeah.
No. I've seen. Well, hey, dude, I don't know.
that goes back to the horse betting.
We
'cause
should
it
do a
doesn't matter
study
what
on
age you
this
are.
here and figure out what's going on. Why do they do that? What's the idea there? I don't know.
Mm.
Because I can guarantee you this: if there's a bunch of dudes for one girl, there's not a lot
Yeah.
of dudes watching that one. I don't think nobody would watch that. The Bachelorette. I'm sure they've
I
tried.
think we're coming close to that show, though. It's about ready to happen.
The Bachelorette.
The Beta Simp show.
There's a Bachelorette.
It's already happening on the Instagram and stuff. There's a Bachelorette, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
There totally
already
is.
One.
which I'm
Happening.
like what dudes would want to deal with that? Like be in a competition with a bunch of other dudes for like one chick. Like,
Guess it's like all the guys now. That's what
It's
That's
a
what
show.
You're doing. It's
Okay,
already a
It's
show.
already
Yeah.
a show, John.
Yeah.
And it's happening
It's
on
called
social
reality.
media. It's called reality. I was gonna say that. It seems like it's happening in reality too.
Right. Okay. Well, do you guys have anything you want to add? It's almost 6:00.
Well, I just think just a recap. Red pill. Why are men utilizing this now?
well, I wouldn't say it's not really like it's something they're utilizing.
Why does it
It's
make
just
sense?
knowledge. It's kind of like it's just unplugging yourself from that fairy tale idea of how things work in the dating and relationship market, and realizing like we're all in the like at least you and we're in the same boat, dealing with the same frustrations, and it seems to cross kind of the whole mark. Like if you're trying to date Christians, it's kind of the same, and so it's just good. I think it's good to know what's going on. Like
The
I
lay
would
of the
recommend
land.
reading The Rationale Male. Now,
it's data based.
What I recommend, a lot of their problems for me is their solutions are not great.
Right.
And that's, we'll probably have like a part 2 to this where we'll come up with some actual
idea.
some solutions.
I tried
and-
interjecting.
So we've kind of like addressed problems over and over again.
Because we want to kind of take a Christian, like, how do we solve this as Christian men?
I found out how to
because the
do
secular world's solving it in terrible
already
ways.
solved it.
I did.
You solved it, huh?
Let's come back here.
The Rubik's Cube, baby.
No, it's simpler.
Oh my God, I think I know where he's going with this.
It's already here, guys.
It's already
have it.
here.
I look at it every day.
Oh my God.
This is how you solve that problem, guys. Grab one of these and you get to work.
Chop your nuts off.
Chop your nuts. Self-castration. I knew that's where you're gonna go.
After lots of research and deep study,
I
how you do
have joked,
Everybody in our Bible study has joked about that.
but even like I heard on one podcast, like one guy was saying on this podcast, he's like, if I could just take a pill that would just chop my like sex drive in half, that would just make my life so much easier.
what would the world be like? I was talking about. I was like,
Imagine if we didn't have to imagine if we were eunuchs, how much more productive we'd be, and where our minds would be on as far as thinking. And
it's
like
tempting.
historically, the kings always had a couple eunuchs around to advise them
yeah,
because they didn't have nuts.
yeah,
They didn't have no
unique
nuts. They
perspective.
could think clearly. They were like, listen, telling you,
it's a burden. Like
it's a burden.
it is an absolute burden. I think
Not just in weight.
yeah,
It's not easy to have 30 pounds of dead weight.
I don't know how I do
30
it.
pounds.
That is hilarious thing.
Ugh.
John Kettlebells, baby.
Kettlebells,
But,
got your own if you do chop them off.
But I do agree, and I think that having we're
Mastatitis.
describing a lay of the land based off of statistics. We're describing what a lot of men have went through, and they've been very vocal about it on the internet and social media. And we're also describing an illness that is because of the sinfulness of this world that we need to interface with and acknowledge that this is a spiritual war front that we need to have some success with and encourage our young men and women to unify and practice better skills within this, because there's a lot of women and men out there that are good, but they're just not meeting each other, or they're not trusting each other when they do. There's something not going on that's interfering. So
There's a lot of the
Besides
problem of
scarcity.
yeah, we'd like to hear from these guys and women out there. What's your experience
Get in
been
the
like?
comment section. Yeah.
What do you think is the issue that's causing this interference beyond the satanic?
What have your experiences been?
What have your experiences
Good
been?
ones, bad ones. Do
Right.
you have any solutions?
And
Because
it's-
that's going to be our next podcast, or one of them, besides having some girls and single boy Christians.
Single
Single boys.
Sounds like a,
Just,
we're Catholics. Newsflash. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, we all
Well,
like boys.
But yeah, we'll continue on this conversation going forward too in multiple podcasts. Just it's a topic everyone's talking about in all the podcast world. So
People are going to be dating till there's no more people left.
yeah.
Yeah, hopefully starting families.
Yeah, that's the idea. We want families. We want
Which
good
Mike wants a
families.
family, but I really don't want kids.
I don't know. Sometimes I
Sometimes
was
I do
literally
want
just
them,
thinking
sometimes I
today
don't.
about how scary it would be to deal with like having daughters right now. I would just be terrified.
You
Absolutely
got to trust in God.
terrified.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah,
God told Abraham to have he was going to have a son. He had one, and then he asked him to kill.
Yeah.
It's rough, bro.
Yeah.
It's always been rough.
it's a rough ride.
You can always have some dogs. You know?
Yeah.
I love Slinky, dude. If it wasn't for Slinky, I wouldn't have like that love and affection.
Oh, that's
physical
amazing.
touch. Like she's totally codependent and just
Love
I'd
it.
be dead without her.
Your dog gives great hugs.
She gives
There's-
great
there's-
hugs
there's
and love. She's the
several
ultimate
people
lover,
I
but-
know that can't give a hug.
Oh
1% of Slinky.
100%. She knows when she knows me.
Yeah.
She loves me.
Yeah.
And she knows when I'm up and when I'm down. And
Yeah.
she comes and she tends me.
If there's something I'm gonna thank God for when I get up there, I'm gonna be like, because it's basically the same thing for me when I was single.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, God, you made these dogs different, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I hope there's a few of them up there. I can be petting, running around the ankles, whatever. Because I'll definitely be hanging.
Oh,
with
for
those
sure.
suckers. Oh yeah, 100%.
For sure.
Well, let's close in a nice prayer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Lord, for bringing us three together to talk about some tough subjects, Lord. And we ask for your guidance in our thoughts and our hearts as we play around with hurtful situations, things to come in the future, that you will help guide our thoughts and where we put ourselves in those situations. And we pray that prayer for every young man and woman out there also encountering the rough and tumble dating world out there, Lord. Please be there with them and remind them that you're there as the head counselor in their life. And we thank you so much for relationships. As we talk about them, we see the value in them. And we thank you so much ultimately for the greatest gift, which is a relationship with you. Pray blessings upon all those listening and those present today. In your awesome name, Father. Amen.
Amen.